The show is about to start. Thank you for your cooperation. Enjoy the show, and please come back and visit us again.
I'm Alex Stevanovic here on Love Sport Radio. Get in touch with us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at Love Sport Radio and on our website, lovesportradio.com, or give us a call. It's 0208 70 20 558. This is the Wimbledon Hour, and for the first time in my life, I'm joined by Stuart Deacon and Nick Draper from the 9 Years podcast team. Good evening to you guys.
Good evening.
I love the tune. It's very Heart 80s. Oh no! It's very 80s, I should say. I've just been listening to a lot of 80s music recently, and it's very up for. High up in my mind with regards to music and beautiful tunes. But this is not about tunes. This is about football. This is about AFC Wimbledon. And good evening to you guys. You got something to talk about in regards to a game?
We had. Oh, you're going to put us into the game first. No, that's fine. That's absolutely fine by me. We've got, because last week, Alex, was our first week, wasn't it? Stu, it was on Love Sport, and we didn't get round to our regular game. Abdu, are you? So it's now making its radio debut. But this, we're going to change it up, Stu, because I'm going to take the pressure off you.
Thank you.
Normally it's you struggling because Stu gets it wrong every week, basically.
Right.
Every single week, without fail.
Not every week.
We're going to open it up for the listeners because we've got that opportunity now, haven't we? We can play Abdu Are You live with the listeners of the podcast. So basically, I'm going to read out a clue for an ex-Wimbledon player. There'll be 3 clues in total, as regular listeners to the podcast will know. And I'll unveil them during the show. So maybe one each segment, maybe after we come back from adverts and stuff.
Yeah, I'll leave that to you, yeah.
Perfect. And then people just tweet us in at 9YRS Podcast or at Love Sport Radio with your answers. And at the end of it, we'll find out if any of you are actually better than Stu at this game, which is not hard.
I'm sure they will be.
At Love Sport Radio is the Twitter handle.
Yes.
Okay, that sounds like a good game. Can I get involved?
You can have a go.
Great.
If you get it, Alex, I'll be mega impressed.
So will I.
Well, the first clue, which we'll give you for now, the typically cryptic clue.
Yeah.
Simply put, Jimmy Abdu this week's gone to visit a big, strong boy. That's it. That's your first clue.
Okay. As usual, I have no idea on the first clue. But,
no, it's a little bit cryptic for those Times cryptic crossword lovers amongst our fan base.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever get on the first clue, so I'll leave that to our listeners out there. Or tweet in.
Just tweet in. Abdu, are you with your guess at Love Sport Radio at 9YRS Podcast.
Sounds good. Okay, so Rochdale won, Wimbledon won. Let's start with that. Would you have settled for a point beforehand? Did you deserve it?
We'd have all settled for a point beforehand, I think. You don't want to lose that game. Rochdale, with games in hand, it's a 6-pointer basically for them, isn't it? So you don't want to lose these games. So we got a point. I think we were fortunate to get a point. In fact, Stu, I'd say we were going to do a man of the match poll on Twitter. We're about to put this on Twitter as well. Man of the match poll. Any other candidates other than George Long?
Yeah, we encountered a Rochdale team and bang on form at the moment, and loads of games in hand. And they're doing well. I said a little while ago that they're going to be playing. They're going to be doing no training, so they're going to be literally playing. They're playing a game after game after game, and players would rather play than train. And at the moment, they're picking up points quite readily. So I'd have taken a point before we went there. We were hanging on, and in the end, as we made some subs late in the second half, really just try and stop the tide. But Rochdale had a post late on, and we were lucky to get a point. But I'll take that. That's another point to the total.
Who would you chuck out there then if it wasn't George Long, man of the match? Who which names do you even volunteer? Somebody defensively, a defensive player more, I would imagine.
That's what it was. So you got George Long, who made loads of saves and made two goal line clearances. Barry Fuller, who played really well all game, and Dejos Larger, who scored the goal in the end. But I wouldn't. Yeah, I think it was very much a defensive game for us, and defenders only really come out on top.
So Barry Fuller and Dejos Larger. I'm going to put that on Twitter now at 9YRS Podcast at Love Sport Radio. Have your vote man of the match. We'll give the result at the end of the show, I guess. But aside from that, do you not think that the lineup was far too defensive? We went in 3-5-2. Will Nightingale comes back in. John Meads and George Frankham are our wing backs in essence. It was a team set up to get a 0-0, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was set up not to lose. Rochdale have been playing well all the time, so it was really set up not to lose a game. 3-5-2 sometimes can make it into a 5-4. One of your full-backs drop in, then you very much become a defensive unit, and that's what happened. We got detached from Joe Piggott and Lyle Taylor up front, and in the end, Lyle Taylor was joining back in to try and defend. which then left Piggott out on his own. So we've seen it a few times, but Rochdale forced us into. I don't think we set up to go that way, but Rochdale just kept pushing us back and back, and in the end, that's what happened, and we've done well to get the point.
And again, saying that, a game we've taken the lead, we've scored first, and let the lead slip within 15 minutes. It's becoming a bit of a recurring theme, isn't it? We had it against Oxford the week before, many times this season. In fact, we score, and yet we can't seem to hold on to it. Which, for such a defensively minded side, can you explain that? Is there an explanation for that?
Sometimes it's a mental thing, isn't it? Sometimes you can take a lead and you've got something to hold on to. I think we took it was a good free kick and we got a deflection and Deji Ozraja got on the end of it. But we never went to go and get the second goal. I don't think we were confident enough to go for the second. So in the end, I think Rochdale at home, new pitch, they're always going to push forward. What they've got now, 4 games in hand now to play. The games are running out for them since that time of the season now. They're going to push on, and a draw's not good enough for them, whereas for us, we'd take a draw. So I think you had a team that was trying all out to get the win, and a team really that knew a point would be a good point. That's what we did in the end. But I'd rather us be a bit more attacking and try and kill the games off, but I don't think Rochdale are ever going to allow us to do that.
This was the thing. What was the plan in an attacking sense?
I don't think there was. I think, we played 2 up front, but I think it was really to try and Rochdale play a 3-5-2 as well. So I think it was a case to match them up. But away from home, they're quite strong at home. So we haven't got the greatest away record, and we're not. I wouldn't say we're firing all cylinders at the moment. Also, Darius Charles had an injury. When Darius returned last week against Oxford, what was the difference? He's a leader, leads by example. Will Nightingale coming in, done well, but when you keep mucking around defensive setup, that sometimes can cause you a bit of an imbalance. So I think that's where we were. I don't think we played poorly, but I suppose at this stage of the season, you want to try and, if you get a 1-0 lead, you want to try and keep hold of it.
Piggott Taylor always looked like they were a bit isolated.
Yeah, I think, as Stu says, the problem you've got is you've got 3 central midfielders. You've got Jimmy Abdu, Tom Sawers comes back in the team, and
we'll be talking just a bit more about that. I'm so sorry, guys. We're just going to go into a promo, but we will be going on more about Piggott and Taylor, who looks like they would have been isolated next. Good evening, I'm Alex Stevanovic here on Love Sport Radio. You can get in touch with us, remember, on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at Love Sport Radio. Also via our website, lovesportradio.com. Call us 0208 70 20 558, especially if you are a Wimbledon fan, an AFC Wimbledon fan, because up until 9 o'clock, this hour is dedicated to you. I've been speaking with Stuart Deacon, Nick Draper, both with me here from the 9 Years podcast. We were talking about Piggott and Taylor, always looking like they were isolated against Rochdale.
Yeah, and I think the problem we had was, like Stu said, you've got 2 up front, but backing them up, supporting them, don't really have it. And I think if you're looking at Liam Trotter, whose name comes up again every single week, but if you look at that side and you think that's probably where we're looking for someone to provide the creativity, and Liam Trotter is not that player whatsoever. Was it really a case of he wanted to get through level at half-time or keep it tight as long as the game could go before making the attacking substitutions, which we seemed kind of did. We brought on Barch and we brought on Forrester, but they're not really going to be able to influence the game by that point, surely.
Yeah, he had attacking subs there, but when we actually brought them on after 63 minutes, we tried to, and Nuardi said after the game that we tried to get some runners on there so Forrester can run the ball, so can Ed Barcham. But the problem was is that we were just, whenever we were defending, we were launching balls as far away as we can, which we've done sometimes before. And when you don't have a target man, the ball will never keep coming back. So really, Barcham and Forrester weren't really effective through no fault of their own, but it just wasn't the way we were playing. It was very much a backs against the wall, so the balls are going long. So it never really encouraged them to get involved, which we've seen all along. I think we're starting to see now that our bench is really starting to show how weak it is.
Yeah, this is what I say to you, strikers now. We're really struggling. Cody McDonald, are we thinking he might be out for the season, potentially now?
Yeah, what's it, a fractured foot, isn't it, apparently, because she's been having painkillers in and stuff like that. So we've got Kwesi Appiah, who's been out for, looking since, November, December time?
Even earlier, I think.
Back in light training. I don't think we're going to chance him. I think it would be crazy to chance him. I think you give him to the end of the season, you have to give him a break, you then put him back in pre-season. But we've obviously recalled Jaden Antwi from Farnborough. But with no disrespect to Farnborough or Jaden, that's not a level that really a forward's going to come back from and go straight into the first team. But it'd be a person on the bench if he goes there. But at this stage of the season, you need goals, and you can't keep relying on Lyle. Joe Pigot's got goals here and there, but my concern at the moment is that we're going to end up needing to fight and get goals, and we don't have those attacking players, and we are a bit more a defensive unit, which we saw yesterday.
Yeah, it's like you say, you need to win games when you're in the position we're in, and you need goal scorers to do that. And yeah, I think that's the big problem. What have we got? So we're going into Shrewsbury away, which we've never won at there. That's a tough game. And then we go into Easter weekend with 2 6-pointers. And you can bet Doncaster away, they're right in amongst it. They're going to want to take the game to us. They're a big challenge. Fleetwood are going to start to put runs together, I think. They're starting to show a bit of form under the new manager. They're not games to set up defensively and avoid defeat, are they? They're games you need to go and win.
Before you expand on that point, Stuart, I just want to make the fans aware that you can call in 0208 7020 558 to have your opinion on AFC Wimbledon. We've had a tweet from Lorraine Deakins. She said, give us your opinion on the club and tell Stu his beard. That just cuts off there. Just tell Stu his beard.
That's my wife. That's my wife in technology for you.
0208 7020 558 here on Love Sport Radio. Call in and have your opinion. I'll hand over back to you, Nick Draper.
Yeah, thank you. Winning games. I was just going to chuck it at you, Stu, and say, who do you look for there? If Liam, this is what my argument is yesterday. If Liam Trotter is what he's looking for, or Neil Ardley's looking for to provide the creativity, when you go into games that you need to win, like I'm saying, Doncaster, Fleetwood, which players do you turn to, and which ones is Neil more likely to actually turn to? Does Dean Parrott get a start, for instance, to go and try and win us a game?
Well, he's sat on the bench for a little while, isn't he? And I don't think Dean Parrott is a player that's in Neil Ardley's plans for next season, if we're being honest. I think we realise he's probably going to go in the summer, so would he chance him now? Shrewsbury next week, they've not lost him 4, I suppose won 6 out of the last 10. So to me, that's a free game. To me, you just go there and you have a go.
Yeah.
I know goal difference is a bit of a problem at the moment, so we're sitting quite healthy on a goal difference. But sometimes these games, when you're not expected to win, go and have a go. And as long as you don't get your proverbials smacked and you come away with 4 or 5-0 defeat, then actually, what have you lost? I think you go and have a go. I think Shrewsbury would expect us to go there and sit and try and get a point. Let's go in there and surprise them. That's what I would do. But then I'm not in the RD. I'm not in a position. Obviously, trying to keep this team in the League One.
Yeah, I mean, look at the teams around us in the table. Oldham lost yesterday, Northampton lost yesterday, but do you think it's a case that they've actually lost because they've tried to win the game? Does that make sense? And you you take that, you go into a game knowing that this week you might get turned over like Northampton did, 3-0 in the end, wasn't it, with Rotherham?
Yeah.
But then next week, that approach can get you 3 points. So instead of picking up 2 draws and 2 points, a win and a defeat 3 points, you're better off for it.
Sometimes it depends where you are in the league, though. Sometimes look at Rochdale now; they know that 1 point's not good enough for them, so they will go for maximum points every week. However, if you look at sometimes when you're just on the border, if you're just outside relegation or you're just on the edge of it, sometimes that safety first attitude comes in, and the games just start drilling down. So we've got 10 games to go. You don't want to get to a stage of 4 or 5 games to go, and all of a sudden you want to start attacking.
Guys, just want to mention a couple of things here. I'm Alex Ivanovic, obviously here on Love Sport Radio. So if you're tuning in on 558 AM and you're wondering what this show is, it's Love Sport Radio. It's the Wimbledon Hour. If you're a Wimbledon fan, AFC Wimbledon fan, please call in 0208 7020 558. Just want to say a couple of things. It was you can give us a call on the number I've just given from Lorraine Deakins. Tell us your opinion on the club and tell Stu his beard is out of control. But there's also a question. So your beard is out of control.
It's lovely for my wife, isn't it?
But there's
She's not wrong. I mean, it's a state, to be honest.
There's a question as well here from Mark Lodge. He's asked the question on Twitter. Can I ask how many points do they think will bring safety and how many do they expect us to get?
That's a great question, Mark, because we were just looking at that before we went there, weren't we? We were looking at last season, 50 points would have kept you up, or would have kept us up in League One. So whoever finished top of the relegation zone, was it Port Vale?
Yes, Port Vale went down on 49 points last year. They were in the last relegation place.
Right. So 50 points would have kept us up. We're not. I don't think it's going to be far off that. 50. I don't think we need as much as 55, but certainly maybe 52, 53.
Yeah, I think 52. You could probably look maybe 3 wins and a draw. So take a draw against Shrewsbury, take 2 wins over Easter period, and then we can have a nice, easy press to the season, can't we?
You say that. I mean, the thing is, what's in our favour is the fact that a lot of teams play each other. So, I mean, we're amongst that, obviously, but I'm just looking at I think the week ahead, if we're looking ahead, we've got midweek games. Rochdale have got Fleetwood in the week. Wigan, sorry. But then next week, Fleetwood again. Fleetwood play Northampton. Oldham have got to play Warsaw at some point. Big European tie, but they've got to squeeze that in at some point. Milton Keynes playing Blackpool next week. So these teams are all taking points off each other, like we have done with Rochdale, I guess. So maybe it's much of a muchness.
Yeah, at the moment it's putting runs together, and we know that they put a run together. They've won 2 games, and all of a sudden now they're looking a bit pretty. Rochdale's done okay. It is though. If you put runs together at the moment, you can if you can get 6 or 9 points on a road, then all of a sudden your confidence goes up and everything's that way. So that's something that we've failed to do in terms of putting the runs together, which has been obviously one of our problems this season.
The problem is, we've been talking about this defensive lineup yesterday, is that when you approach so many games defensively, you're not going to put these runs together. You're not going to go on these winning runs, I don't think, because your first instinct is not to lose as opposed to go and win the game. I mean, our longest winning run this season is 2. I mean,
don't forget about January as well. We had a really good January, didn't we? And then we failed to capitalise on that January.
Yeah.
We didn't see a goal in January.
Went on our longest losing run of the season in February. So,
guys, I'm just going to break you there. We do have a question from Dan, but I'll give you guys the opportunity to answer it in just a couple of minutes. But his question on Twitter, ask the 9 years lads, how on earth are we going to cope again with just 2 strikers for the rest of the season? One of them has just come from part-time non-league. Hold your thoughts on that one. That's from Dan. You'll get a chance to answer that in a couple of minutes. Coming up, though, between 9 and 10 on Love Sport Radio, it's going to be the non-league show. We'll be talking about Bromley, Dulwich FC, Leyton Orient and Sutton Football Club as well. So if you are a non-league fan, stay tuned to Love Sport Radio with me. I'm Alex Stevanovic with you until 10. Love Sport Radio here. I'm Alex Stevanovic with you until 10 o'clock. This is a fan-based show, a fan-driven show, so please call in if you want to interact and ask the guys here from the Wimbledon podcast, 9 Years podcast, Stuart Deacon and Nick Draper, any questions you have on 0208 7020 558, or get in touch with us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at Love Sport Radio, and on our website, lovesportradio.com. So as I say, this hour is dedicated to everything Wimbledon. Before I get to the question that was tweeted by Dan, in case you haven't heard, the FA Cup semi-final draw was made about an hour ago. Manchester United versus Tottenham and Chelsea versus Southampton was the other tie. So Dan is asking you guys, how on earth are we going to cope again with just 2 strikers for the rest of this season? One of them has just come from part-time non-league.
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier. Jayden Antwi coming back, I think, is telling us, we've already referenced it, Stu, coming back is a sign that we're clearly going to be short and struggling with these strikers going into the end of the season. Joe Pigott has scored, twice?
Yeah,
twice
now
for us?
Yes, yeah.
But generally, do you think he's struggled to reach up to League One standard?
Yeah, I do. And I think when you come from non-league, you're not training all the time. So he'll probably been doing part-time training, although he was with professional clubs previously. So he might be doing his own individual training with, a trainer. But he needs to get into that way of training each week. He's come into a difficult situation with us. Neil Ardley's not necessarily gone and started him many times. I wouldn't say Lyle Taylor and Joe Pigott is a natural partnership either. Having Cody McDonald now out injured, that is a problem. But it's something that we knew we had. I think we started with probably a striker like at the beginning of the season. Never addressed it really in the transfer windows, and obviously losing out on the forward who went to Southend in the end on the transfer window, who, let's be fair, don't seem to be doing anything great for Southend, but you never know, might have done well for us. We are short. So we now need to look at what our attacking options from midfield, really. So obviously we've got looking at Dean Parrott, Andy Barcham, Edgar Karja. They're the probably players we need, not necessarily forwards, but we have to probably, rather than playing the 3 safety players in terms of Soares, Trotter and Abdu, we need to maybe sacrifice one of those and maybe look at formation change as well.
And also set pieces, because actually our last 3 goals have all, you could argue, been set pieces. The penalty against Oxford, which should never have been a penalty, and then 2 Lyle Taylor free kicks have led to our 2 goals since then. So if we can maximise our set pieces, then we can do all right. We just don't maximise our set pieces. That's the problem.
No, we've been really poor this season. We had really poor corners and set pieces, and the season before that we got quite a bit of joy from that. We should do the size of our team. We should get some more joy, but again, I think that's a confidence thing as well. We just haven't. This season we've scraped through, haven't we? We're now going to the last 10 games of the season, and we're just trying our best to get over that line and then have a regroup in the summer and start again. Which is, it's great in the summer. You can start again All everyone's on a level playing field, and we've got 10 games down to get there.
Guys, Mark Lodge has asked, if you get relegated, will Neil Ardley still be in the job?
This Ardley in, Ardley out thing it's been the theme of this season, hasn't it, Stu? Every result is treated as an argument for or against whether Neil Ardley should stay in the job or not. The bottom line is, unless this links into a really good wider point for us, I think, actually, because unless there is a huge demand from the fans that they want Neil Ardley to go, which I don't think there is overwhelmingly at all. I think there are a number of loud voices that would like him gone, but I wouldn't say that that's the. If you were to take a poll, I think it could be 50-50, but it's not going to be heavily swung in one side or the other, is it?
I think at the moment it's 50-50. I think we got relegated. I think it would be a real strong case for Neil Ardley to go.
But the board will not sack Neil Ardley.
The interesting thing I was looking at, obviously the club accounts come out, and there's an AGM coming up in a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. Obviously we published the accounts, and what I was looking, in terms of from League One to League Two, there's about a £630,000 difference in wages from a League Two to a League One. So we have to also accept, if we got relegated, that we will see a massive drop in salaries because the funding that comes into League One is different. So we also have to accept that actually, do we go in with if we were to give it a new Ardley, we would have a new manager with a new budget, a lower budget, necessarily probably quite a big exodus from the club. So me personally, I probably would like to keep a familiarity there, and I'll give Neil Ardley another chance, but I think there'll be a lot of pressure on him if we get relegated. I
mean, this is the question though. The fans, and this is our wider point for today actually, if the feeling was there, you'd think that the model of our football club, which is fan-owned and fan-run, would allow for the fans to put forward their voice and say, this is what we want, or at least we'd like to have a conversation about it with the board. And the channel through the Dons Trust is there. However, that fans club element of our current setup, for me, is no longer there anymore. I sense now we're at a point, we always thought this point might happen, when you go so far, as we have done, that the club distances itself, whether it's purposefully. I don't think it is purposefully. I think it's a natural thing that happens. But it distances itself from the roots of the fans club, the fan ownership ideal. And we had a couple of tweets last week, didn't we, asking about distance between the club and its fans, a growing, what were the words we used? Disparity between the two. And I think we're now evidencing that. So in terms of Neil Ardley, and there is discontent, and we've been very open about this and said we don't want Neil Ardley to go, but we would like him to become, like I said it on this today, haven't I, many times, we'd like him to be a little bit braver, to use that term, a little bit more attacking, stop being so defensive. It doesn't strike me as particularly Wimbledon to be so meek. We're an aggressive side. We like to get up in amongst teams and impress ourselves upon them. It seems like we pay too much attention to the quality of the other teams.
Yeah, we've heard a lot about budgets this year, which
of course,
you hear that word too many times. To give you an argument, Accrington are just literally the top of League Two with a poor budget, and you've got Luton Town, who've got a very big budget. So
still win the league, though.
But sometimes budgets can be a little bit of a noose around your neck, and it can be too much of an easy reference.
Well, guys, just sorry, because we are coming up to a junction at the moment. We are coming up to a bit of a break, but that's interesting actually, because next we are going to be talking about whether Wimbledon are a fans club. This is what you have down here on your podcast agenda, so we'll be covering that. Also, we've got 15 seconds very quickly. You've still got this game on, haven't you?
Yes, we have a second clue. Go on. I need to squeeze in very quickly.
You've got 6 seconds, 7 seconds.
Debuted in 1992, scored 4 goals in 28 games for us.
Okay, so after the break, you can repeat both clues because we had another one earlier. That's coming up next. I'm joined by Stuart Deacon and Nick Draper from the 9 Years podcast, talking everything AFC Wimbledon this evening up until 9 o'clock. So this is your chance to have your say. Nick Draper, you have a competition on at the moment. You've already given 2 clues. Can you repeat those clues?
Yes, we'll run through it for Abdu or you. So if you have any suggestions for your answer, just tweet us at 9 Wires Podcast at Love Sport Radio. First clue was the cryptic clue, big strong boy. This is a big strong boy. Second clue, I just mentioned this player made his debut for us in 1992. He scored 4 goals in 28 appearances for us. Stu's looking at me. Stu often has this look of total confusion on his face, to be fair.
1992 is a long time ago.
It was before I was born, of course.
So, I'll go to someone like Aidan Newhouse.
Aidan Newhouse, okay.
Name from the past.
We've still got one more.
Wasn't very good.
What was the first clue?
The first clue was he was a big, strong boy.
What's the prize?
The prize is a mention on Love Sport Radio from myself, and a big congratulations, and we'll tweet out a nice message to the winner.
Cool. By the way, Nick says, Alexa says 55 points is how many points you'll get.
Alexa says many things.
They're not all true, though. You're right.
They are all true, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, exactly. Now, got another question here. I do want to concentrate after this on because you have wanted to cover this. Are we a fans club? I think that's a very big question, personally. Mrs. MC has asked, if Neil Ardley stays, do we need new coaching staff who have experience at this level? Enjoying the show.
Thank you very much, Mrs. MC. I'm guessing if Neil Ardley goes, Neil Cox goes. Yeah. But Simon Bassey probably stays on as our link, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think we had that before when Terry Brown left. Simon Bassey took temporary charge, and then he's a great link, and I think it's something I'd rather keep in there. I think you do get a new... I think most managers nowadays come with their own backroom staff. It seems to be now they all move as part of one. Where years ago you might see your coaching staff may stay there. Now they all get paid off, and we're a League One club, so whether they get paid off or not, that's a different story. I think you do. I think you get a whole new backroom staff in there.
Simon Bassey staying is sort of our link. We've always said, and we all along, we wanted that link from CCL that came up all the way through with us, and Simon Bassey has done that. I think he took over. He was caretaker when Terry left, wasn't he? When Terry Brown left, he took over for four or five games.
Yeah, one at Wickham, if I remember properly.
Yes, first game. Yeah. He's our link there, and that sort of links us to our roots, as it were. But then this is the whole point of return of our roots and our fans club ideal, that might be not a remaining link, because of course there is throughout the club with the volunteers, with some of the staff that are involved and things like that. I think my issue with the fans club, we mentioned it earlier, like the vehicle there for Neil Ardley, for instance, if fans were that dissatisfied, of which there are rumblings, then you should be able to have that voice that's being translated to the board, which I'm not sure is there at the moment. And communication, which has been for a decade now, I think I remember sitting on panels a decade ago about comms at the club. We still seem to be missing the boat a little bit on this one. An example was in the week when we had a big ceremony for the start of demolition work at the new stadium.
Mm-hmm. This is Are We a Fans Club, isn't it?
Yeah. That's a big moment for a lot of people, the moment where work begins on us returning home to Wimbledon. I'm not speaking personally here. Personally, for me, it wasn't a big deal at all. But for many people I know it was. It would have been nice, I think, to give the opportunity to some of our fans that would have enjoyed being there for that, the opportunity to be. But there was no communication that this was actually going to happen. I think the event on Friday morning, attended by a small group of people, club representatives, a couple of local children from local schools and from the AFC Wimbledon Foundation, which is great, which is really, really good. But we had enough notice, I think, of this event happening, demolition work started, that we could have sent out a message and said, look, if you would like to be involved, give us an email, we'll see what we can do. I realise there are some problems with this. There could have been problems with the amount of people allowed on site and things like that. I get that. But I'm sure there are ways around it. If we'd have planned it properly and said, we could have come to an arrangement where some of the fans could have been involved. And I think that just gives an indication of maybe where the thought from the club at the moment is, the first thought, bizarrely, is not the fans.
Yeah, and I think there's loads of things on that, isn't there? We've got a Don's Trust board that's doing very well at the moment. However, when there were up elections, there was no elections because not enough people actually nominate themselves to actually stand. But that's not necessarily meaning that the fans are not engaged with the club. It necessarily means that the club is doing so well that actually we've never been in a moment of difficulty. We've never been relegated. We've always been promoted. So when the club's doing very well, your fans or the Don's Trust members tend to just go with, the club's doing very well, we'll stay with that. But we do have a really important time coming up with fan engagement. So we've got a stadium move. I think one of the things that you and I are very keen is that we still have that involvement with the club and we still have that closeness. We're quite lucky that we have a club that you can have your Man the Match award done in a main bar. You'll very, very see many clubs do that. I think one of the things that I'm very keen on is making sure that we don't lose that in a big stadium where all of a sudden we just become that other club. And for me, one of the big things about Wimbledon is that we are seen as a fans club. But sometimes I think we say it, but I don't necessarily think we act on it. And I think we've lost sight of that. And I think there's a few reasons. The stadium move has taken a lot of time from the football club board and also the Don's Trust board as well. But the engagement is massive with the fans at the moment. And a simple thing like on Friday where that might have been a nice event for some people to attend, are we thinking, are we engaging enough?
Yeah, I mean, it was Mrs. Mack last week on Twitter, actually, who said fan engagement. She felt that fan engagement was at its lowest Dave Abbott on Twitter, he talked about there being a malaise this season around the place. And yeah, I think you're right, Stu. I think because we've done so well, you're right, because we haven't had a bad patch, people tend to just sort of stand back and enjoy it. They don't seem to get a reason to get involved when things are going right. Do you think there's also an element of we're getting back to Merton now, we're getting the stadium back in Wimbledon, it's done. We've got ourselves back into the Football League, we've got ourselves above the other lot in the pyramid. We've not finished above them at the end of the season yet, but we've got to the same level. We have been above them in the table. We are currently. Do you think for a lot of people that's sort of job done now? And the injustice we felt that spurred us on to get us to where we've got has sort of dissipated a little bit. And now we are just another club now looking to progress in any way that any other football club would.
There's a few milestones you look at. I remember when we first started, you may laugh, but I remember thinking about, do we get squad numbers on our shirts when we were non-league? I think one of the milestones was, do we get our name mentioned on Sky Sports Soccer Saturday? There are milestones, and yes, beating them and being above them was definitely that. And if we can be in a higher league than them, then that would be quite enjoyable.
Well, but Mrs. Mack says, what about inviting the volunteers? They do a lot for the club.
This is the thing probably about the other day, where I think there were volunteers. Mike T, he was down there, so there was that link. But wouldn't it have been great to have people that have been doing those jobs at the club for free that have helped us out massively over the years that we mentioned before, the programme sellers, Robin who delivers the kit up and down the country every single week. Do you know what I mean? Might have been a nice moment for them, I guess.
Yeah, we do have a Volunteers Day, don't we? So I think that's coming up very soon now, I believe. So we do reward the volunteers in that way. But I think one of the big things we've got coming ahead is that Eric Samuelson is probably going to be stepping down very soon. And that's all we've really had. Chris Stewart before that. But Eric's been, a good 10 years now? And under his sort of leadership, we've achieved a lot. Be interesting when a new person comes in, of whether we've got a new chief operating officer coming in, how he's received.
Yeah, I think that's the thing as well. It's not that we have to progress, and that involves Joe Palmer coming in as a COO and different approaches, and perhaps slightly more. I don't want to say professional because it's not like we're an unprofessional club. But do you know what I mean? Someone who's got experience at those higher levels coming in, but it does feel like now a bit of an entity, the club that's moving away from it, the base where it started. And I guess that's always going to happen. I guess it's not like I said, it's not a deliberate thing, but the fans then become a little bit more willing to say their negative pieces in public spheres where they might not do now. The fans become a little bit more discerning when it comes to attending games or putting in for their golden goals or their kit sponsorships or things like that, because it's a little bit more corporate as opposed to a little bit more fan run. This is Love Sport Radio. I'm Alex Stevanovic with you till 10 o'clock this evening. Up until 9 o'clock, we'll have us talking about AFC Wimbledon. I'm joined here by Stuart Deacon and Nick Draper from the 9 Years podcast team. Richard Lonsdale asking you guys, please remember the Don's Trust Board members are fans and volunteers as well. This is part of the massive subject we've been covering over the last 20 minutes or so. Are we a fans club? Yeah, and we've got a tweet in as well to follow up on Richard's point there. Fan engagement. We get the Don's Trust Board we deserve, and that's not to speak ill of any members of the Don's Trust Board. We noticed a number of them who are fantastically engaged with our fan base, that speak to the fans regularly on match days to get a feeling of, or get a sense of what they're thinking or what we're feeling and things like that. It does just boil down to this fact of maybe it is just like you say, Stu, in good times, which for all the moans about this season, the standard of football and the struggle we've had, we're still on an upward curve from where we started massively. And perhaps it is a case of people aren't going to engage unless they're deeply, deeply unhappy or concerned or worried. I guess we spoke last week about the big meeting about aiming our community work more towards Kingston and Merton and how that attracted however many hundreds of people down to Kings Meadow to vote on that. You and I been to Don's Trust meetings. Well, there was one in December, the last one, wasn't it? How many people in the room? 50? 3,000 Don's Trust members, roughly. 50 people turning up for a meeting.
Yeah, we've got something different this time, which I'm really pleased at, is that we've got an AGM after the Shrewsbury game. Scunthorpe started last, didn't it? After the Scunthorpe game. And I've been saying for a little while, it'd be nice if we could have one before or after. I think obviously after the game is more appropriate. But we're trying things differently. So it'd be nice to see, of course, if we get beat by Scunthorpe, then there might not be many people left after the game, or they may be in there very early getting their seats ready. But I think it's important that we have that engagement. I think when a team's doing well, when you're getting promoted, no one's going to really stand and moan too much. And Eric Samuelson, rightly so, has had not an easy ride because he's done very well with the football club board. My main thing about engagement is really about the stadium. and how are we going to make sure that not all our fans, but the things that we want. So do we want to make sure, do we have a main bar? Do we have a players bar that actually the fans can go in? Those sort of things. One thing I don't want to do is get lost in a massive stadium. We're going into a new stadium that is going to attract new fans. Do those fans understand what the fans model is in terms of that we support the club, we own the club, and the funding comes from the fans? So very soon, there's a few mumblings last season, are we going to get someone come in and put the sugar daddy? Our model suggests that we're never going to have a sugar daddy. But we also have to understand that we have some fans that are going to new ground that are going to go, you've got a big new shiny stadium, but it's no good sitting in League One.
And those new fans, though, as you say, they are going to be attracted to the locality, which I guess is what the aim was for us all along, wasn't it? So do we go back to this conversation of being fans owned? We've always said that's massively important to us, and that is a bedrock for our football club. Do we come to a stage when the new stadium's here and we're attracting however many thousands of new people? Do we come to a point and actually say, is that what this club should be anymore? Or do we want stadium, championship football, Premier League football, invest? Fans can't do it anymore.
It becomes more and more difficult the further you go. We said last week, didn't we, that when we went into League One, we said that we were going to have a consolidation season.
Oh, what?
Consolidation. Say that.
I'm not sure you said it yet. Still,
no, I don't. Anyway, we're going to try and make sure we don't do too much in the league. But some people thought that was going to be maybe just aiming for just outside the playoffs. Actually, that can sometimes mean sitting in the mid-table. And look at the reaction we've had from some fans who all they've ever seen is promotion. Not used to seeing us in a relegation battle, but I think the engagement, as it becomes more challenging, I think the engagement needs to be done. I think it needs to be done. We're looking to go into a ground in the 2019 season, so we need to really get some engagement. I know the club have said they will, but there's so much to do with. Let's be honest with you, not a massive team. The football club board are not a board of 20.
No.
What are they now? A board of 5 now from memory?
Half a dozen,
Yeah. So that's a lot to do. So Don's Trust Board are going to have to help out doing that. But we need to get that engagement. We did try that in the last Don's Trust Board meeting, which went very well. But there's a lot to be done in a short space of time, and I hope we just don't sort of paper over it.
Well, call in, please, if you're a Wimbledon fan, 0208 70 20 558. I'll give that number again in just a second. You can get in touch with us, as you have been this evening, on Twitter at Love Sport Radio, or via our website, lovesportradio.com. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook and Instagram at Love Sport Radio. That phone number again, 0208 70 20 558. The reason it's 558 at the end is because we are on 558 AM. We're also on online and digital radio, now on your Alexa smart speaker as well. So 0208 70 20 558. Yeah, huge subject, guys. Back to you, for the fans. You've wrote so much here. The one I really like this question. Can you cover why we as fans don't go into games with that old Wimbledon attitude of win at all costs?
The distance, again, between the fans and the current club. We spoke about it last week, and a somewhat disengagement with the current squad of players and lack of characters and personalities and things. And I guess that does come down to the setup for the way we approach games, I guess. Also, though, I think it all links for me. I mean, I'll be fascinated to conduct some sort of sociological experiment with our fans and the way the club is at the moment, because we've achieved a lot. But as I say, because of the level we've got to now, do people now no longer view it as their achievements? When we got the club set up in the first place, when we got into the Combined Counties League, when we won the Combined Counties League, when we got promoted into the Football League, I think there was this element that fans thought, that's me, I played my part in doing that. Whereas now it seems like getting the stadium, that's the work of Eric and a select group of other people. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like it's everyone in it together kind of thing, and not in a deliberate way. Of course, Eric's not done that. Eric's worked his backside off to do this for the fans, for the football club. But then do people view that, and is there a bit of envy in that they weren't more closely involved in the process? Does that then reflect itself on a match day when you're kind of now, instead of celebrating collective achievements, a win against Oxford, for instance, is seen as a victory for Neil Ardley's, I would say pragmatism, but he's not particularly pragmatic, for his philosophy, his football philosophy?
It's a pertinent question, Nick, and Stuart, you'll get to answer that in just a minute or so when we come back. We'll also be talking about the week ahead.
Love Sport, a great station for a great city, 24/7 through Alexa.
Yes, it's Love Sport Radio. I'm Alex Ivanovic at 0208 70 20 558. Back to you guys. Nick Draper, you gave an interesting monologue there about about the question about what you were saying, and Stuart.
Yeah, what my point was is in terms of, I think we have become a bit detached. Once we started doing the carvery, I know it sounds silly, but we do hospitality now on match days as well, so we never used to do that. And we had to do that because we had to have a facility of entertaining the guests from and the directors from the opposition club. But again, that become a little bit of a level, so you're a different type of fan, and I know it's not meant to do that, but it has been seen that. And it's even to the extent now where sometimes the players don't all come out. The players always used to come out into the bar. This season it's felt like, because we've not done so well, the players haven't necessarily come into the bar. But as fans, we'd actually respect them even more if they come in. And then, to give an example, George Long comes in with his mum and dad every week. Win or lose, he'll come in there. He's never abused. No one ever would abuse him. Lyle Taylor sometimes has to be chucked out, from what I understand, and very much a fan's favourite. But I think this year, I feel Neil Ardley's somehow protected himself and kept himself away from fans. He hasn't had an easy ride, but I think as fans, we were used to being around them, and that sometimes if you lose that, you lose that. But it's a big thing of what we're about. And for me and Nick, we're quite lucky in a way that we do still spend time around those sort of people because of what we do on match days. But some fans don't. It just becomes, I would hate to become any other club. If it's a club like Fulham, then Fulham are a lot cheaper than what we are. So they can go and get out of Fulham if they want a football, but they want something different at Wimbledon.
You've got that competition, haven't you?
I do. I was going to... Nice link there, Stu. Of course, you mentioned being close to the players and what have you at Kings Meadow. In our what's the word I'm looking for? Few days at Selhurst Park. We often used to hobnob with some of the players at Selhurst Park.
We did. We used to be in the club shop, didn't we?
This player that is the subject of Abdou Ayew this week. He was a Selhurst Park player.
Okay.
You would have seen his last goal for us at Selhurst Park. So he's a big, strong boy. Scored 4 goals in 28 games for Wimbledon. Debuted in 1992. He only played for 2 clubs in his career, one of which was managed by Laurie Sanchez.
Oh. So that would have been down at Wickham or something like that, wouldn't it?
You tell me.
Oh dear,
I'm not very good at this week. And
this week,
I'm being on radio. Radio would not be very good if I was sitting there for 30 seconds trying to wonder who that was.
This is very true. Do you know what, Stu? Every week I get people come up to me at Kings Meadow and say, I got it after the first clue this week. I got it after the second clue this week, whatever it might be. Yeah, no one's got it this week. So I'm not saying they're lying, but I have no evidence with which to support what they're saying. You still have the anagram clue.
Okay, which would be even worse for me, yes.
Yeah, waster silenced tat. I had to keep it clean because we're on radio.
Is it Wayne Gray?
Hold on. No. Waster silenced tat has about 50 letters in it, and you've gone for Wayne Gray.
I heard a W.
Oh dear.
No, I'm not really. I do. And Nick knows that as well. So
I do.
No, you've done me this week. Well done. Let's hope the Twitter followers.
When are you going to give the answer? At the end, I suppose.
I suppose at the very end. We still got the man of the match poll as well to give a result.
Oh, really? Well, you've got about 3 minutes to do it all in because you've asked.
That's all I ever need.
You've asked to look ahead at the week as well, at the midweek fixtures.
Oh, midweek fixtures. Yeah. Well, there's lots. Like we touched on it slightly earlier, I guess. There are lots of teams, big games this week. I think Doncaster have got Bradford at home. Northampton are playing Shrewsbury, Rochdale, Fleetwood, which is the big one, and then big Europeans like Walsall versus Wigan. So the 4 home teams there. Yeah, kind of like similar to last week, wasn't it? We hoped for 4 away wins. I think we got 2, didn't we? 2 draws, and then Milton Keynes unfortunately won. Again, you're hoping Northampton, Shrewsbury, can get something out of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Rochdale, Fleetwood, what do you take another draw?
Take a draw. I think you take a draw because it takes maximum points off both of them, isn't it?
Yeah. And then Doncaster at home to Bradford, and Bradford are free-falling. So I actually think it wouldn't do us any harm for Doncaster to actually pick up points there and actually edge themselves away from trouble, because then it maybe lets them relax a little bit for when we go there and gives us more of an opportunity to get a win, perhaps.
Yeah, I agree.
Perhaps. But yeah, do you want to do the... So I suppose we should do the man of the match poll.
Do the man of the match,
Man of the match poll. To find it first, of course. So you went for, Stu, as your candidates for our 3 man of the match players as George Long, Barry Fuller and Deji Oshalaja. I don't think a player's ever received 0% before, but Barry Fuller got 0%.
Okay, I'm surprised by that.
Dead Josh Larger, 39%. So I'll leave you to figure out the winner there, Stu.
I'm sure that'll be George Long who won again. I'm not surprised he'd be in my vote.
Yeah, 61% with George Long. I don't think there was any other candidates, especially with the highlights. And you see that fantastic, double save he made.
Yes.
And we've been worried about George Long recently. Thought his form's dipped a little bit, haven't we? Looked nervous on occasion, but actually
come out very strong yesterday and will be a massive player in the final 10 games.
And won us a point as well.
We've got someone with an answer. Don't know if it's right.
Oh, go on then.
I don't think it's right. Gareth Ainsworth says Gary Fletcher.
Oh, Gary Fletcher, it's good, but it's not right. Oh, I've always wanted to say that.
You've got about 30 seconds to say what you want to say.
Stuart Castledine.
I don't know. I do remember the name.
He's still in the club as well.
He is.
In a capacity with his child house playing.
Big, strong boy.
That's always worrying when you get children playing for their dad. Their dads, their dad's playing. That's always a worry.
That is a bit of a worry. Big, strong boy, because he presented a daytime TV show, didn't he, at one point, called Big, Strong Boys, which he sort of did some DIY stuff. It's a small world.
Oh, I love it, though. Stuart Deacon, thank you very much. Nick Draper, thank you very much. You're back again next Sunday, of course, at the same time at 8 o'clock.
Feeling hopeless in this one-horse town for two. And time's a wasted if you ain't wasted. But I've got